where does that passion for cars start? Like, where is that first kind of moment as a kid, wherever you were, that you see a fast car, you're like, wow, I want that? Where was that moment?
From growing up.
Okay.
My sister's older. She's older than me, and her husband at that time, when she got married, he had a Trans Am. So, and it's everything he had, he put in one car. Instead of owning a home and owning everything else, he just owned the car. Okay. So I've looked at the Trans Am and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so pretty. Speechless. When he'll pick me up, I just couldn't speak. I played with Matchbox cars all the time growing up, being in the war, so you have to kind of be inside the house. So you'd have to be on the streets from bombing and everything else. It just, the love of passion of cars just grew all the time. And I've never really thought I would have a nice car, you know, or an expensive car. I remember one of my cars that I bought at early age. It was an old beat up 6-7 colors 260Z Nissan, you know, and I've really dreamed about painting the car and dreamed about putting big tires and wheels on it and changing the exhaust. I just never thought this was a dream. That car was a dream. I never thought I would ever get into a Porsche or Ferrari or Lamborghinis or any of those cars or McLarens. You know,
So when was that first time that, you know, when you were successful, what was your first kind of big boy, I'm going to treat myself purchase?
Well, when I was in college and buying and selling cars, I, like everything else, I've enhanced my quality and my taste, and I started buying expensive cars and selling expensive cars. I wasn't scared of it. I became where I sold a lot of Porsches, and I got to drive those Porsches. So I've gotten from the 944 to the 944 Turbo, the 911, 911 Turbo, 911 Targa, 930, you know, and 928, and I can name them. I became almost like the person to go to from dealers to ask you about a Porsche, the knowledge. So I've flipped a lot of Porsches and sold a lot of Porsches, but it was never mine. It was the intention, I have to make money out of the car.
It was a business acquisition.
It was a business acquisition. So my first car, I would have to say it was by surprise. I go to Tulsa, I'm delivering a Porsche. I made my money. A dealership bought a Porsche from me. It was just a favor for the dealership. I run into this guy has a Ferrari. And the first time I lay my eyes on really Ferrari one-on-one in person, and I really fell in love with it. 3 weeks later, I'm in Washington Ferrari picking one up, and it just graduated to Ferrari, and that was my first car. And then from a Ferrari to another one, and
so that's how they get you, don't they? They say we entice you with this one, and then they keep calling you. So I had a friend of mine back in Wales. Every time that his Ferrari would go in for a service, they'd give him a loaner of the newer model, right? And then he'd always say, "Well, I can't give this back. I've got to take that one." You know, but they're beautiful cars. They sound amazing. You know, resale red is a real thing, right? You know, if you get one in red, but